Hello, and welcome to the live stream Q&A. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat as best as I can. I'm by myself this time. I don't have any backup to help me manage the chat, so I'm sorry if it takes me a second to notice you. But I have quite a few talking points to go over, whether there are any questions in the chat or not, but do feel free to ask follow-up questions and that sort of thing with what I'm talking about. So first things first, the bad news about what's going on is that Tabletop Simulator is not going to be supported at the April 2022 event for Protospiel Online. And there are a lot of concrete things that means. And there's a lot of reasons behind that and a lot to talk about. It's kind of a complicated situation when it comes to that. So instead of trying to talk about that live, I really just encourage everybody to really read the whole statement that we put out. That was a carefully compiled statement that took almost a month, basically a month to write. And it will probably take you about 20 to 25 minutes to read in its entirety. And I think everything about it is something that is edifying for everybody to read, is informative to let you know really what exactly happened to lead to this decision, because there are multiple different reasons why. I'll put a link here in the chat just a second for where that statement lives. And just so you know what I'm talking about. Oh, all the different chat tools. Yeah, you should see that. And I'll show it on the screen here too. You should see it in the Twitch chat. But, well, I'll leave it up for a minute while I'm talking about all this, actually. So this is a tough thing. We know that. It's not lightly decided to remove Tabletop Simulator from what we're using at the event. It may or may not be forever. It really is going to depend on what happens over the next several months. I can tell you that we are now running on a 3-time-a-year schedule, and there will never be a time where we say at the time badge sales open for an event, no TTS, and then in the middle of that sales period for that event, we say, oh, actually TTS. So there is no way TTS is going to be at April 2022. There's no reason to wait and see if we're going to change our mind right before April. That won't happen. And it also won't happen. The next time we're going to run is in August. And we'll make the decision on whether or not TTS will be supported in August, like that first week of May when badges for August open. And then we will not change our mind until after August. And it will continue that way into the future. I honestly have my doubts that the things that would need to happen to make TTS feel comfortable and safe for everybody in our community physically would be able to happen in time for early May. So it's pretty likely that it's not going to be a part of the event in August either. But I'm not making that decision until the first week of May, and there might be a springtime miracle where some things straighten themselves out and it somehow manages to feel better. But I will say, like, that statement that I wrote, it also has a history of everything that happened, all the full public conversation on Twitter, and then some information about things that happened backstage, sort of, between parties talking in private messages. And with permission, information was released in our statement, too, about private conversations that have happened, some of them. And I can tell you where things stand now is that there has been a private apology made by TTS. That wasn't, you know, for the world to see, but people have made it public that it happened. And that is a really good first step, but healing and forgiveness just take time. And so that's why I say I kind of doubt it can happen by May, because when something that's traumatic happens to you, you need some time. And this was a traumatic thing that happened to a whole group of people at once. And so different people have different timelines on how they heal and what starts to help them build trust again. And that's not for me or anybody besides the people who are dealing with that to prescribe the timeline. So it's going to be more like a temperature check repeatedly, like every time it's time to put badges on sale, to see if the things that have happened for safe forgiveness that isn't, it's not like gun to your head forgiveness. It's like, I actually do feel better. That's the kind of forgiveness that's going to need to happen for us to actually add it back. So all that being said, like I say all that because I have had conversations with some people who tell me that the assumption is, oh, this is going to blow over. It wasn't really that bad. No harm was intended, and so it's going to blow over. And it's not worth learning something new because you're just going to change your mind and put TTS back in, Tabletop Simulator back in the next event. It's very unlikely, again, that it's even going to come back in August of 2022. And after that, it's a bigger question mark to me. I don't really have a prediction after that. And it's definitely not, I can tell you absolutely it's not going to change by August or April 2022. So just to clear up that possible suspicion or confusion on anybody's part, that's the way it will be. And I do recommend too reading, like if you heard some scuttlebutt, like something happened with TTS, bad customer relations with trans people or the queer community, and you don't actually know what happened, I think it's really a good idea to look at our statement and read the transcripts on Twitter, because things happened all over the place. Twitter is very hard to keep up with, and that's why I built that out so everybody can see it in one place. And I think it will help you just be informed to know what happened here and what decisions are being made based on, all up to the date that's public knowledge at this point is in that Twitter recap on the statement. So now, yeah, a lot of what I need to talk about is kind of related to all of this, because if we're not using Tabletop Simulator, we have to use other platforms, or we just can't even make the event happen, of course. But the lucky thing is that there are 2 other platforms that are a really good solution that we've been looking into, and we and other like collaborators that we've talked to them about their experience with it, and we're starting to make more training material for these 2 platforms. And then there's the one, Tabletopia, that's been around for a long time, and some people in our community have used it or used to use it. And the fact of the matter is too, there's never been an actually assigned official platform for Protospiel Online. Tabletop Simulator basically became that because our members just gravitated towards it. It's what they helped each other use the most, and it is easier to just use one. I know it's easier to just use one thing, only be used to one type of controls while you're playing the game, and only need to know how to join one kind of table, share one kind of table, all that sort of thing. And it just turned out that way. At the very beginning of Protospiel Online, back in 2020, some people used Tabletopia, and we had maybe a 90-10 TTS Tabletopia. And the people who used Tabletopia kind of just fell off because switching between the controls of the 2 is aggravating, and they would get that feedback from their players. Oh gosh, I've been playing on Tabletop Simulator all day, and I can't remember which button to push to shuffle the cards and move them around and all that sort of thing. So even the people who used Tabletopia eventually just transferred all their games over to Tabletop Simulator, not because we told them to, but just kind of basically based on the groupthink of everybody working together. And so these other 2 platforms, Tabletop Playground and ScreenTop GG, have always been on our list of included, recommended, allowed platforms. But just nobody has chosen to use them because in the case of Tabletop Playground, it's like Tabletop Simulator, where everybody has to have a copy of the game. Everybody who joins the table has to have a copy of their game. And right now it's only available on Steam. And it was sort of like, well, if I have Tabletop Simulator, why would I also have Tabletop Playground? Nobody's going to have a copy of this game to join my table. I don't want to be the one telling them they have to get a copy of this game. So nobody adopted Tabletop Playground because of that pricing model, basically. It is cheaper than Tabletop Simulator. That's kind of the good news. It's Tabletop Simulator full price is $20. And Tabletop Playground is only $15, and it also goes on sale for 50% off relatively frequently, like Tabletop Simulator does, and then it's only $7.50 when it goes on sale. And this is another big part of why the decision fell the way it did with Tabletop Simulator. When we started Protospiel Online, we reached out to them through Twitter and email, and they never responded or acknowledged that we were trying to talk to them at all. I will also give credit to Tabletopia that they, even though they're not the one our audience kind of gravitated toward and chose, they emailed us. And they gave us coupon codes. They offered that to us without us even having to reach out to them. And I have been talking to them again, and they're willing to do that again. I'm not sure if people will use the coupon codes. That's the one thing. They didn't use them last time, so I don't know if they'll use them this time. But just the fact that they're willing to talk to us and they care about us enough, our community enough, like the designer community enough, to at least reach out and work with us and respond when we talk to them. That's important. And then Tabletop Playground and ScreenTop GG are also that way, where they're listening to us. And when we reached out to Tabletop Playground, like very quickly, they said, oh yeah, we'll give you as many codes as Steam allows us to give you to cover your scholarship codes. So, oh, hi. And let's see, what else do you say? Okay, launching it for the first time, a brave new world. Yes, and the neat thing about it is that it feels a lot like Tabletop Simulator. Once you're at the table, many of the controls are very similar. So that's kind of a plus of Tabletop Playground if you're used to Tabletop Simulator. But back to what I was saying about, needing to have other people have the codes. So we have a scholarship program for badges. All you have to do, it's a need-based scholarship. So when we don't ask for any personal information or anything, I'll go find the link, and I'll put a link to how you apply for the scholarship right now in the chat here. So we're not gonna. You can apply for it for more than one event. We're not going to ask you to prove that you actually don't have the money or anything like that. We're just going to take your word for it that you need. Basically, it's stated as if it is not in your budget to buy a badge. So it doesn't mean you have zero money or you're totally destitute. It means that the way you arrange your budget doesn't have room for a badge for Protospiel Online. This is funded by our attendees scholarship. When you buy a badge, you may choose a plus scholarship badge, and that creates one scholarship for a future person. And our attendees are very generous, and we have plenty of scholarships to give. When you apply for this scholarship, we ask you, do you have Tabletop Playground? We used to ask you, do you have Tabletop Simulator? Now we ask you, do you have Tabletop Playground? And if the answer is no, you're going to get one of those codes that Tabletop Playground very generously gave us to help support our scholarship. Tabletop Playground is also our first sponsor. I kind of haven't gotten to talking about this very much yet, but we have Coffee Topic sponsors this time around that I'll be reaching out to trusted people that we know align with our values, giving them an opportunity to choose the coffee topics and kind of sponsor the spot and have a chance to talk with our audience. And Tabletop Playground was the first one to take us up on that. So the lead developer for that program will be with us for 2 hours. I can't remember off the top of my head, like the time slot has been chosen, but eventually I'll be like releasing all the sponsors and all their times, and they'll be in there to hear your feedback. And I think part of the reason that the developer was so excited to do it is that they know they can have private time to just hear. It's not going to be recorded and put out, so they can ask. They can take the temperature on some decisions they might be thinking about making while they're with us. So that would be also like another fun reason to choose to come to Protospiel Online in April. So you'll be able to talk directly to developer in real time, tell them what you think the platform should be like for into the future to make it better for game designers. What does this say? Write down size in centimeters. I already love it. That's awesome. And yeah, anything, it's an interesting because it's very close to Tabletop Simulator, and some things about it are better and some things about it are like missing. I think the biggest thing it's missing right now is a writing tool, and they do know that. So I'm not sure what the timeline is of it, but they know that, for example, roll and writes are a really common kind of game that game designers want to make, and they don't have a writing tool right now. But it is on their roadmap, just without a deadline actually mentioned. So that's one thing. If you have a roll and write game, neither of these platforms are great. That's the one feature that we really haven't found a lovely solution for. The top thing I would say is to use some other kind of tool. Either let people actually hand write and just like show, maybe like not everybody has a printer, but maybe print out the form that you need to write on and show it to the camera when necessary, or use something like a Google Jamboard or Google Drawing or something like that, another tool that separately, like you play with the pieces on the table of either ScreenTop GG or TTP, and then you draw over on some other online tool. And I haven't vetted any of those yet to say like this is the one that works really well for this kind of roll and write, but that's a general idea that I can kind of give you to look into for yourself. Let's see. Dapper Dan Man. I don't know who you are in real life, but good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Oh, you'd like to catch the video sessions afterwards. We don't record it though. And that's part of the magic of Coffee Talk, is that people feel they can speak freely because it's not going to be shown to anybody else. It's the people who are in the room, or the people, they can feel out the people in the room, feel out the temperature, and talk with those people about what they want to talk about, and that's it. And that's part of even what I'm selling to the Coffee Topic sponsors that I think they like, is that they can a little bit more privately, potentially find some customers of theirs, or like potential customers of theirs that they can talk to about things that they wouldn't necessarily they're not necessarily ready to make public. Maybe they haven't made a decision about it yet or something like that. So I'm sorry about that. Will you tell me in the chat, please, what is the physical convention that you are going to be at? Is it a local one, or is it something bigger that that has not hit my radar for some reason? I'm very curious to know, because scheduling is very important. Of course, this weekend, the 3 weekends a year that we're going to be doing it, I haven't put it out yet. Let me also get another link for y'all. Great Plains in Lincoln, Nebraska. Cool. I've heard Great Plains. I didn't realize it was in Nebraska, so that is cool. I'll log that away. For us going forward, the actual goal is to have it the first weekend of May. But this year, the first weekend of May is Mother's Day. So we did it 1 weekend early. And that's because it falls on the second Sunday of May. And May 1st is a Sunday. So the first Sunday of May is usually So the second Sunday of May. May 1st is a Sunday. So the second Sunday is the first full weekend of May, right? But for the next 6 years, it won't be that way. So I think maybe we won't overlap if Great Plains usually goes for the last weekend in April, and it won't be a problem in future years. And then the next one after that is going to be August 26th to 28th. I'm trying to think about if you've never come before to Protospiel Online. Like once you come once to a Protospiel Online, you become an alumni and you're in our Discord, so you can still participate a little bit in conversations. We have just kind of one Clubhouse channel where you can talk to each other and keep in touch if you need to, and you can also see who everybody was there. Like in Discord, if you're familiar with it, there's a whole list of everybody who's in a server with you. So just the fact that you get to stay in the server, you can find the names of people that you met and be able to figure out how to reach out to them. And we also have the attendee directory on our website. If people opt in to being in it, they'll share their social links there also to keep in touch with each other. But really just, I would say, if you want to participate in our community, but you can't come to that event and you want to hold off until the next one you actually can come to, the most like interactive thing that we're going to be doing between now and then is our Thursday night Protospiel tested live streams on Twitch, 9 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. We're pretty committed to doing that regularly for the foreseeable future. We have quite a few different games that we can play, because we'll also tap into not only things that were played at specifically Protospiel Online, but also things that were played at any Protospiel in the network. They have to be, of course, available on one of our supported online platforms, but there's like BGA is an extra platform that something can be on once it's not a prototype, since it's much harder to build on BGA. That's not something we use at Protospiel Online, but it's something we will use sometimes on our live stream if a game is available there. So yeah, I encourage you to participate in that. And I think we're going to have another live stream that's regular that I haven't solidified the specific time, but we'll be doing something that's more like coffee talk there. And so that might be of interest as if the time works for you. And those will, like all of those things on Twitch, those will be replays on YouTube. So 24 hours after they come, or 24 hours, the first 24 hours of their existence, they're exclusive to Twitch, and then the replay will become available on YouTube. So all those coffee topic type conversations, the exact name of that stream and the exact content isn't all dialed in the exact time, but I'm working on something with some people to make a time where we talk about stuff like that. So you might be interested in that. And yeah, you can come and ask questions in the chat if you can show up at the live time, or you can catch the replay on YouTube. And I think that'll be kind of nice, because you'll get to see the two types of things that happen at Protospiel Online. Really, the two main focuses. The main focus is the play testing, and Protospiel Tested is similar to a play test, except that there's no feedback because the game is done. And then this other thing will be more like Coffee Topic, where we're having a conversation, or Coffee Talk is the channel name and the area name, and Coffee Topics are the different focus topics, but it's a very free form conversation. It's not like a presentation. A lot of people assume it is, but it's not. It's a conversation. And actually, I tell the sponsors they're not allowed to make a presentation, that it's supposed to feel very comfortable to come in at any point and leave at any point, because Coffee Talk is kind of a space holder for when you're waiting for a game to be available, so that the main focus, it's really all about the play testing, and Coffee Talk is just the release valve where people can socialize between games, so that they're not clogging up the place where people are pitching their games to go and start a game. All right, back to Tabletop Playground and Screentop GG, and kind of the difference and what things are going to look like in April. Oh, let me talk to you about that. Yay, thank you. We like to have your sub. Yay, thank you. And yes, we're also really hoping that Twitch can be a way that we can feel like we get to hang out together between events, because that's a big part of the feedback that we've gotten since the beginning. We used to do them quarterly, that people miss each other between the event, and they want more ways to keep in touch. There are no voice channels open in the Protospiel Online Discord except for when the convention is open. So we just have one text channel that you can use to keep in touch with each other, and then one text channel that you can use to communicate with us about your suggestions. And that's all the activity that happens in the Discord, really, besides our announcements between conventions. And then when the convention opens, there are a ton of voice channels and a lot going on just for that one weekend. And then we quiet down, and then the next time we open, we can talk again, right? So between conventions, people feel kind of sad that there's nothing to do live together. And that's what I'm hoping Twitch can kind of become. So we want it to be very interactive with the chat, not just you listening to us be the smartest ones in the room. Like, you can totally contribute to the conversation. And yeah, and I'm interested in, I have, just to make it like flow and be easy, I have an idea for just a long list of topics that will keep us going for a long time. But I also like the idea of hearing directly from you in real time, like what topics are you most interested in. So we might do like a big main topic and maybe have a segment that's like question of the week and include community that way. I don't know. All those things, like if you're in our Discord, we have the suggestions channel. If you're not in our Discord, we have a contact form on our website. Just Protospiel.online. I'll put it. It's very intuitive, like what you would think it would be, but I'll put it up just in case. But this is a way you can just email us, you know, without us having to embed our email address on the website, and tell us what's on your mind. I haven't made any kind of like infrastructure. Obviously, I haven't even chosen exactly what the title of this other stream that would be sort of like Coffee Talk is, but probably we could have like a suggestion form for people who aren't yet in our Discord. Potentially we could talk about that. So those are just ideas. And anyway, so yes, back to sort of what it looks like with the landscape, the way it's going to be at April. I've had people ask me, what is going to be the most popular one? I don't want to learn a lot of different things. Not even, maybe even the idea of learning how to play a lot of different things feels overwhelming. It's not even about, can I build on all of them, but just, am I comfortable playing on all of them is an intimidating feeling for people. And so what do we, like, what's our official one? Well, we're not going to define an official one. We never have. All we've done now is just said there's one that's not allowed, and it so happens to be the one that everybody was using before. And that's the reason, actually, that we say it's not allowed, is because it was too prominent, too overbearing, kind of. And there are the wider problem, other than the issue with the queer community and Tabletop Simulator, is they're not good at having the way that they communicate with all of their stakeholders is poor. And part of the reason that it was really so upsetting what happened between Zoe Allred and them is that Zoe is a designer who has been teaching people how to use Tabletop Simulator, has been selling people on using it for a year. Zoe was basically one of their unpaid salespeople and trainers, and they didn't even know that, to know that they should take a message from her seriously. And that almost is the more underlying problem that I haven't seen addressed, that they haven't made the connection that taking care of the design, there's an important reason for them to take care of the design community, because each one of us that makes a game and wants to get it published is probably going to lead to potentially 100 people who decide to get Tabletop Simulator. We're the people who are creating the content. We're the people who are prompting people, giving people a reason to get the game so they can try out our content. And they don't talk to us when we message them. You know what I mean? That's what I personally really need to see change and feel more comfortable about, because even after I wasn't at, I know there are a lot of people who are now almost, it's like triggering to open and look at Tabletop Simulator because of how sad and hard the whole situation was for them. They felt very personally attacked and ostracized or whatever by it. Now, I don't feel that way, but I do feel betrayed, because I was also one of those people who was teaching everybody and telling everybody to get Tabletop Simulator. And it was the only one I was teaching people how to use before events, because it's the only one people were using. And so there's a lot to do and to make a convention work. And I didn't want to spend my time teaching people stuff that they didn't want to use. But then it gave the impression that it was our official platform. And I don't think it's an overstatement that I personally have taught 100 people how to use Tabletop Simulator. And I don't even know how many people I've convinced to buy it. So being in that position and then knowing that they were so cold and made such a bad problem for one of our really valued community members who's super active and is a prime example of the kind of vibe that we want to create at Protospiel Online. Just to know that they did that, it made me feel like, oh, I'm a stooge. I shouldn't have been telling people they should use it. I mean, I might have even been the person who convinced Zoe to use it. I never asked, but I might have even been the person who said it was a good idea. And then eventually that problem happened. So that's part of the reason for the decision too, is as somebody who would be, it's the point for me isn't that I'm never ever going to touch the program again, but I'm not going to tell other people they should touch the program again until I'm sure they're going to take care of the people that touch the program, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm looking for, and I'm hoping it will happen. I don't think that they want to be mean. I think they just, it can be a steep learning curve to learn how to take care of people the right way, and they haven't climbed that curve. And I hope they really want to, and I hope they really will. And I'm watching them with hope, with that hope. And many people are. It's not like it feels good to be like, I spite you, and feels good to be done with you. It's like sad. It's like a broken relationship that we hope we can heal, to make that clear. But it's a two-way street, and I can't make promises because it depends on what they do. So anyway, back to kind of the difference between Tabletop Playground and Screentop GG. I think that it will probably be approximately maybe 45, 45, 10, or something like that, maybe even a little bit smaller, with Screentop GG, TTP, and Tabletopia. I think just a few people might be using Tabletopia. It's not great for prototyping because there's no way to bulk edit your cards. So if you're early in stage and you think there are going to be a lot of changes, or if you just have a lot of components that would need to be updated, Tabletopia is going to be something that ends up taking a lot of your time to keep up with it, to the degree that it would probably be frustrating to you, and it's a good enough reason to probably not use it. But if you have maybe just a few cards, because you have to load every card in individually, and if you need to change a card, you need to load the new image in individually. There are some tricks that people have shared for like speeding up that workflow, but that's what it is. There's no like, I want to call it a sprite image, but I don't know if people understand what I mean. But like, you can make a grid of card images and load that one image in, and it turns into a deck in both Tabletop Playground and Screentop GG. So the fact that that's that way, that's the major thing that makes those two work for designers much better than Tabletopia. Possibly we can get Tabletopia to change their mind about that one of these days. However, also with the conflict in Ukraine, Tabletopia, a lot of their employees work in Ukraine and Russia. So I'm not going to be bothering them with this issue right now. They have bigger issues in their life, very sadly. So I wouldn't expect it to change anytime real soon, but my point is that they at least talk to us, and if enough of us say that we want it eventually, maybe that'll change. But for April, I don't think it's going to have changed. However, people who are almost ready to go to Kickstarter, Tabletopia is a really good thing for people who are on Kickstarter or about to get on Kickstarter to use, because it can be free to play if you as the creator decide. So it's a good thing to put on a crowdfunding page to say, try out this game, because it'll look really polished and 3D and be free to the player. So I wouldn't say there'll be no, like, people just don't like Tabletopia, there will be no Tabletopia. I think depending on the stage somebody's in, and also if you only have a few cards, it's not so bad. It doesn't make that big of a difference to use Tabletopia, so I think there'll be a few people. But because of this mass upload thing with Screentop GG and TTP, I think there'll be about half and half, because Screentop is flat and TTP is 3D. And so some people are just going to feel better about having 3D. And also, well, man, I've got so many questions. So I'll put a pin in what I'm saying and look at the questions so I don't get too behind. So Dapper Dan asks, have you heard feedback from players on whether they prefer 3D to 2D? Okay, yeah, and I guess your links are redacted in the comments. I'm the only one who can put links that people see. So actually, I can't even see it in my studio here, what you've said. So I'll ask you if you need to say a website. When you type it out, don't type it out with the period, with the actual dot, right? Like blah, 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 dot, blah. And then I think I'll be able to see what you're saying. I could go into Twitch, but it's kind of like, you know, there's so many buttons. Screentop.gg. Okay, cool, cool. That makes sense. Okay. What are we saying here? Have you heard feedback from players on whether they prefer 3D, Tabletopia, Tabletop Playground, or 2D like Screentop.gg? Not in any kind of like way where I could tell you the data on it. I think the bigger issue is what it's like to build in the two being really different. So, okay, let me kind of tell you my spiel about what the two are, the pluses and minuses of the two when you're trying to decide. I don't think it's a bad idea, honestly, to put it on both, because that the more platforms you can put any prototype you're making on, the greater the accessibility to the possible playtesters. So pluses of Screentop, like let's say that you have been a committed, like all you know how to use is Tabletop Simulator and you're coming from that perspective. And I'll put an asterisk on all this that I am not a tabletop game designer. I'm more of an experience designer, so I don't have much reason to build in these things. And I'm going off of things that my designer friends have told me. So there's a little bit of a gap in exactly how my opinion forms, right, on all this. But let's say you're moving over to Screentop.gg. The pluses are now it's totally free for everyone to participate in this. Like it's free. You don't have to make any monetary investment. You don't have to ask your playtesters to make any kind of monetary investment. And the process for joining the table is so easy that like it's almost dumb to give instructions on it because it's just so intuitive. There's no steps. It's create a link, like create a room, kind of like if you've played Jackbox, it's going to have a room code. You give that link to your players and they're in the room, and there's a button they have to push to join seat. That's as complicated as it gets. And the room will automatically dissolve unless you star it to stay in existence. So those players that you invited won't be able to keep messing around with that table after a certain period of time, 24 or 48 hours, something like that. So like just way easier to invite people to your table than Tabletop Simulator. No need to use Steam. I've heard back from, we had one person specifically that was more of a playtester type who came to one of our events and felt really betrayed, basically, that that almost everybody was on Tabletop Simulator and they couldn't find any games to play on Tabletopia because they hate Steam so much that they just, like I even said, I'll give you a free code for Tabletop Simulator. They said no, because I'd have to install Steam and I hate it. So there's no involvement with Steam if you happen to hate Steam. It also is really, really, really a much lighter lift because it's browser-based for any playtesters. And so somebody who has just like a Chromebook, doesn't even really have a real laptop or desktop computer, just has a tablet, could join a Screentop.gg table. I mean, those are some pretty big pluses and some pretty big reasons to use it. Okay, the downsides are that you're going to have to be confronted with a little bit of code when you build it. It's not going to feel drag and drop. It's not going to feel like building a game in Tabletop Simulator. There's kind of a whole paradigm shift. You have to understand, okay, this is what a container is in Screentop.gg. You're like, what's that even mean? Where it's gonna feel intimidating when you first start trying to build, as compared to, and not that Tabletop Simulator wasn't intimidating to build in the first place, but it's even more intimidating at first blush. The big, the thing that kind of mitigates this big minus is that Zoe is really committed to helping anybody who wants help getting over that hump, and has a service where she'll talk with you for an hour about your specific game, and ask you some questions about your specific game so that she can kind of be in the right mind state to help you with it. But she's not going to build it for you because she doesn't want to be in charge of your table and all your updates. She wants to empower you to be able to update your own. But you can have a person with you to help you make the connection. Okay, that's what a container is, etc. And that's how it works. That's how I should use it. And okay, this is how I manage my assets in it. It's like in a completely different way. It's like you're kind of in a website and adding assets, and you kind of have an asset pool. It's just a completely different kind of tool that, yeah, is really intimidating for people. I understand that. Like, personally, I'm a front-end web developer, so it's not a hump for me, but I know that a lot of people, as soon as they see anything in any kind of code, they're like, oh, no, this is stressful. This is like triggering. I don't want to do this. So it may be too much for you. You may not want to do it. And I think there will be some people like that who just, that is a deal breaker for them. We also have a live stream about, we have 2 live streams now. That one of them is still on Twitch, but both of them are replays on YouTube. They're both about 2 hours long. Both of them the same game being built in Tabletop Playground versus Screentop GG. So you can see exactly what I mean if you go and like look at these 2 videos about how TTP is much more similar to what it's like to build in Tabletop Simulator. And then the other kind of minus is what you're saying here about the 2D versus 3D. I think I know that there has been an instance of my husband specifically having a game that he needs to learn kind of from the rules and a digital prototype. And when asked, this is just, anecdotally, what would make it easier for you to learn this game with rules and a digital prototype? The answer was something that's 3D. That's going to feel more like real life to me. It's going to, the way that I need to grok and think about the rule book and the prototype, I want 3D, right? So there are going to be people like that. And then there are going to be other people who just would, like, they have a Chromebook. It would be so much easier if it could just be tap, 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 not a lot of like extra mouse buttons and stuff like that. Yeah, the other minus moving from Screentop GG, I can speak to things as a playtester because that is the kind of person I am in this community. And I have playtested on Screentop GG for somebody since Protospiel Online in January. And it has that same problem that Tabletopia has where the buttons are just a little bit different. And it's like, oh gosh, I have to remember it's the space bar instead of Alt if I want to see things big, or that button is different for shuffling. And so it is going to be, there is going to be that little bit of aggravation because I think these 2 platforms are going to both be prominent because they don't, neither of them has everything that somebody would want. We are going to be doing that shifting between the 2 control sets. That's a little irritating, and that's unfortunate. I don't know, maybe that would be a pretty big ask probably to Screentop GG, but like, could you switch all your buttons to something different? Or maybe they let us switch all our buttons. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. So maybe we could make a tutorial for how you set your own hotkeys for Screentop GG so everything is the same. Wouldn't that be great? So that idea. So anyway, yeah, I think, yeah, those are the pluses and minuses. 3D, 2D is, I think, the most, almost maybe the most minor one. It's the one that most superficially you can immediately see. And you might think, too, that some games are never going to work in Screentop GG because of pieces that you need. But what's really neat about the live stream that we did is the game that was built in Screentop GG is one I might have thought, like, it had 3D tokens and the designer cared about them being cool shapes. And that was part of the experience he wanted to create. And it's actually possible if you know how to do it in Screentop GG. And it's kind of, the user experience actually turned out a little bit better for the way, like, you can pick up multiple things at the same time. You can set it up to define what things can be on top of each other and everything. And that's all explained in that live stream. So you might think your game is too fancy and has too many parts, or the parts are too fancy or something like that for ScreenTop.gg, but I would encourage you to watch that live stream to see how a game that you might have thought only worked in Tabletop Playground or only could be a nice experience in Tabletop Playground actually works very well in ScreenTop.gg. Yeah, just if you know everything that's possible. Let's see. Okay. We've got a lot of other questions. Let me move on here. Bulk editing is for hackers. Here I am importing one card at a time to Tabletop Playground, having no experience, and I'm almost done. Only the learning game that has a lot fewer components. Oh, I mean, learning hotkeys and learning time-saving tricks. Oh my goodness, that makes life so much easier as a digital prototype creator. I encourage you to learn how to do it. It's just a matter of making a grid of cards. One tool that we can recommend for how to make that grid of cards, and it also helps you just with updating your prototype and everything, is component.studio. It has an export for, I think it's only going to be labeled as a TTS export, but it will work exactly the same for ScreenTop and TTP. So what do you say, Joachim? You should have made that grid. Okay, let's see. This one is redacted, but so I'm guessing Tabletopia is the one that has that monthly subscription. And blank. So let me see if you can answer me, Dan. What are these two things that you're talking about without using the links? Maybe I'll come back to this one. Hopefully you'll repost it, because I think you're probably talking about Tabletopia. And I know this was an answer to an above question, so. Okay, component.studio, like I was just mentioning, has an ability to quickly create that grid of cards. But it has a monthly subscription. Yes, exactly. It is possible to turn that monthly subscription on and off depending on, how active you are in your design practices. Like, let's say you just want to make a 1 month push to actually work on it and then take month breaks off. If you were an early adopter, I was, so I know this. The first 1,000 people who bought Component Studio only had to pay $5, and as long as they keep it, they keep it. So I have a reason to keep mine active all the time. They got me. I probably pay more than it makes sense, but I think that tool is just such a godsend. I don't mind paying my $5 a month forever, but it's $10 for most people. And they also are releasing right now Component.studio version 2, and it's meant to be more intuitive and more powerful to use than the original version. And it's another example of something where understanding and not being intimidated by code, it makes it a little bit easier to use. Certainly the first version. The second version I haven't dabbled with very much. I've just kind of been watching along with how it's going, and I know that it's been released in beta just recently. It was an alpha for a long time, where it wasn't considered final, and like a ton of feedback from the audience was being taken to, like, how do you want it to work? And so it was kind of built as a community effort, the second version. And I know a big part of what people wanted is more drag and drop instead of having to type in coordinates and things. And that is what ScreenTop.gg is like. You have to type in coordinates, pluses and minuses to that. There's no drag and drop as you're creating like snap points and such. But the neat thing about the fact that you have to enter coordinates is that you can, and Zoe shows in this live stream that we did, you can calculate it kind of all at once. You can use a code block to just do it all at once if you just know how to do it. And it's not, you don't need to be super duper duper smart. You just have to copy something from somewhere, put it in a place, and like change the number to the one you want. It's not that bad. It looks scary, but it's not really that bad. And once you have that little skill, you could save yourself, 15 minutes every time you need to do it. And over time, it's a really powerful skill to have. So let's see. Yeah, Tabletopia is, I feel like their plan is more for published games. Their customers are more like the publishers, and they want it to look shiny and beautiful and like be the official online version of a game. That's the other thing that's a little squiggy about Tabletop Simulator and even these other two platforms. It makes me a little nervous because there's not a set path to control IP yet. I know that Tabletop Playground at least hears us and is thinking about how to manage this better, but it's kind of a hairy problem, so I understand that it's not perfect. But these other two are newer and they're thinking about it, and Tabletop Simulator has been around forever, and they don't seem to care at all about doing anything about it. It's just the Wild West. Anybody can put anything up. They can totally steal people's IP, put stuff up. It always felt a little uncomfortable to me. I had used to think that Tabletop Simulator was good about removing things if publishers asked them, but then during this whole rigmarole and talking to people in back channels to make my decision, found out that's actually not true, and that when they take things down, it might actually require a DMCA, which is frustrating. It's really frustrating that that's another stakeholder that they're not worried about. So Tabletopia has always been worried about the publisher stakeholder, and that's really their customer. They want to make it possible for them to kind of make a sample and then maybe a version that you have to pay for if they choose to do it that way. They want to make it something that can be an income stream for publishers. And so that's why it's not really made for the person who just threw something together to see if it works. It's supposed to be a polished, beautiful situation. So, and so that's a plus too. Like, if you care about that as you're playtesting, if you want part of the way you want to kind of the carrot you want to give people to come and playtest for you is, well, my game's beautiful. Tabletopia is good for that part. But I think Tabletop Playground also looks pretty nice. Looks pretty impressive. Oh yeah, it was more complicated to make the game on Tabletopia than TTS. Yay! Okay, you're updating us. You're kind of doing your own little live stream, Joachim. Now I have to figure out how to set up the table. Yes, there are quite a few videos available. One thing about the one that we made is that I can promise is that it has timestamps, like links in the description where you can hop to the thing that you're most curious about, because it's a super long video. It would take time to watch through the whole thing, so you can jump to the part that is of interest to you. But a lot of things like the snap point stuff is probably some of the most interesting parts to watch as far as setting up your table and making it good quality of life. Let's see, the community on the TGC Discord are super helpful when it comes to Component Studio. Yeah, so that tool is made, by the way, by the same company, by the Game Crafter. And so another thing you can do, actually, it's pretty platform agnostic, but it's the only one that's going to go right into TGC for making a physical prototype. So you can also export the types of files that you'd need to give to a manufacturer like Panda. You can also make a print and play for yourself, and you can export a card or token grid for things like ScreenTop.gg and TTP. Name of Wheels did a great job with the video. Name of Wheels is David Mazzonato. That's now, I guess, David Mazzonato's like a superhero name or something like that. Yes, the timestamps are much appreciated. Prince Joachim. Thank you, Prince Joachim. That's your superhero name. All right, so yeah, and then I didn't quite get to the kind of pluses and minuses of Tabletop Playground versus Tabletopia or versus ScreenTop.gg. So once you get into the table, and the way it feels to build in it, I think is more similar to Tabletop Simulator and maybe even better than Tabletop Simulator. It has, except for some of the things it's missing, like the draw tool, but I know they intend to add it. It's just, I'm not sure when. And some other things like flicking is different, but there's there's a lot of minutia, I guess, like this would be possible in this one and this one wouldn't. And you kind of almost just have to watch some of the live streams as these things come up. But I know one thing that the way that you create 3D pieces and everything, you could make For example, those from Tiny Epic Games. What are those called? The meeples that can hold swords and stuff. You could make something. You could make a snap point like on a meeple's arm, and then like have a sword snap to its arm. And I don't think you can do that in Tabletop Simulator. So the way the snap points work, I think, is way more robust in Tabletop Playground as a general statement than Tabletop Simulator. So that part will be a quality of life boost. Almost all of the controls are the same in Tabletop Playground, like standard, versus Tabletop Simulator. So it feels like, oh, this is pretty much just like the same experience. And it's not a big like shift that you have to make like you have to do with Screentop GG or Tabletopia. And the G key means group in Tabletop Simulator, but it means go to ground in Tabletop Playground. So there's like these two. The way locking works is locking to the table works is a little bit different. You need to understand ground mode and not ground mode. And M in Tabletop Simulator is magnify, and it's something else in Tabletop Playground. It has a little, and it also like it's much cleaner. Like it doesn't have as many buttons all around the edge, for better or worse. It's kind of nice for the experience, but it's also, I have question, where's the button? I need a button for this, can kind of come up. I think you push escape to get to the menu, and they might have added a little tiny button that lets you get to the menu now, but they have just very tiny buttons in the corners that don't obstruct your view of the table. So that's a plus, but the minus is you're like, where is the thing that I need? And you just kind of need to get used to it. But there is a little reference in the bottom right corner. I think there's a button that tells you what these few hotkeys are to help you not be confused. So the select a lot of things and group, that's not a thing you can do in Tabletop Playground right now. But in their most recent release, and I haven't really played around with it since they released it, and that's what's great, is they're working on it and improving it. So we'll like what it's going to be like in April, I'm not even really sure. Maybe some of these things I'm saying they don't have, they'll have by then. That you now can do, while you're holding a lot of cards, you can type a number to make it pop into a grid, like you can do that. You couldn't do that before in Tabletop Playground, and now you can. That's something, it's kind of hard to describe verbally what I'm saying, but you can pick up a whole group of cards in Tabletop Simulator and now Tabletop Playground. And if you type a number, that will define the number of, I think, columns that you want the cards to, either columns or rows that you want the cards to get laid in a even grid, and then you can drop them on the table and then create snap points or whatever. Like it's a quality of life like setup, or like also if you're setting up a card market in your game just while you're playing, maybe, and it's not even about snap points, but you just want 5 cards in a row. Now you can pick them up in a group and type probably either 1 or 5 to make them go into a row of 5. Now, the minus about it is, of course, yeah, you still have to pay for it. And if you didn't have it already, that can be frustrating. At least it's a little bit cheaper than Tabletop Simulator. But you do have to ask your playtesters to buy it. And the only way right now you can get it is Steam. I know that they don't use, well, and that's kind of a plus. It's a simultaneous plus and a minus. They don't use the workshop on Steam because they don't want to be tied to Steam forever. They're starting on Steam, but eventually they want to put it on other platforms like Epic or Microsoft. And so games built for it are not in the workshop on Steam. And so people who hate Steam won't have to have Steam to use Tabletop Playground. It's that way right now, but they use something called mod.io for you to put your games in a way that other people can get to them and play them with you. And it's a lot more complicated than even Tabletop Simulator to make that work. There's some pre-steps everybody's going to have to take to be ready to join people's tables and invite people to their tables that are not immediately intuitive. Yeah, there's some friction there. That's unfortunate. That's something that we're going to be helping with, I think, in the next couple weeks. Within 1 or 2 weeks, we'll have a video about this. So something that Name of Wheels is doing for us as well is making pre-recorded, not non-live stream content that's just like really tight and quick tutorials that explain how to do certain things. The first one that we've released is available on YouTube now, and it's about using the TTS importer tool. So that's another big plus of Tabletop Playground, is if you do have something built in Tabletop Simulator, you can cut out some of the work you need to do by using the importer tool from your TTS mod, as long as you haven't burnt everything to the ground and removed TTS completely from your computer. And it's explained in this tutorial that even if you had put your game in the workshop and you didn't delete it from the workshop, but you only uninstalled TTS, you might be able to recover it. But this would be one argument for not completely burning TTS down, keeping it around and seeing what's going to happen, because anything you've built in there, you can use this importer tool to remove a lot of steps of making all the objects. So it'll make the objects, but it won't build the table state. And scripting is possible, and that's the thing. I actually don't know the answer to this question. This is a question I'm bringing up to myself, is what scripting is like in ScreenTop.gg. I don't think I've heard that conversation happen yet. I don't know if it has scripting. I've not seen scripting be used. Tabletop Playground has scripting, but it does not. Lua is what Tabletop Simulator uses, and Tabletop Playground uses JavaScript. And so whatever code for a script, if you have some fancy script you've written in Tabletop Simulator, you won't be able to use the exact script, but likely many of those same things will be possible in Tabletop Playground. It's just you have to transition to JavaScript. And that's might feel frustrating, but I think it was a good decision on Tabletop Playground's part, because JavaScript, a lot more people know how to use JavaScript than Lua. It'll be easier to find somebody who can help you with it. And it's also, Tabletop Playground runs much more smoothly than Tabletop Simulator. It doesn't take up as much of your computer's bandwidth. So I know people who say, I can't even deal with Tabletop Simulator because it's so slow and broken, like my computer cannot grok it. But they open Tabletop Playground and it's fine. Their fan is not running fast and everything. One thing David has kind of pointed out is which kind of background that your table is on matters. Like if you pick one of the 3D rendered environments to play your game on, that asks more of your computer. So if you want to go easy on people with older computers, you'd want to pick one of the ones that isn't a 3D fancy background. But there are plenty of those, and really the background of the room you're playing in doesn't matter that much. Just, yeah. So why make it harder for people when you're mostly looking at the tabletop and not the background anyway? But yeah, so it's hard to keep track of everything I've answered and not answered. Hopefully I covered that, the pluses and minuses of using those two versus Tabletop Simulator. Oh yeah, you'll have to build when you use that TTS importer, you'll have to do your layout. And TTP is kind of similar to Tabletopia in the way where you make different table states. Like this is my 5-player table state, this is my 4-player table state, etc. So if you're doing Tabletop Playground, best to make your biggest table state. Like if it goes up to 5 players, make that one, and then just save it as another state and delete one set of components, and now you have your 4-player table state. Yeah, and both of them are this way. It's interesting that Tabletop Simulator has this concept of the hand zone that just is a type of zone they've already sort of created for you. But with Tabletop Playground and ScreenTop.gg, you have to make your hand zones the way you want them to be. So that's a minus, but it's equal for both of them. The way you do it with both of them is a little bit different, but kind of reminds me of each other. It's an interesting thing. And both of them also have the slide in, like your hand, what you have defined as your hand, it's actually an object on the table instead of this like zone that's kind of attached to the edge of the table automatically, like in Tabletop Simulator. But you still do have whatever you put in the thing defined as your player's hand, you still do have that kind of slide out thing at the bottom of your screen where you can see your hand up close to you, just from your viewport type way. So if you have any I think and also we're about to release another pre-recorded video that will explain everything about what it's like to create a table, make a mod.io account, like all those things that need to, all the little gotchas, like, oh, I thought I was done, but this isn't working now. it is a little hinky to get that all working. And so we're going to be doing our best to make it clear to everybody who's coming in April. Okay, there's some pre-steps you should take. Like, here's your kind of a, like, we'll maybe make a PDF guide or something like that. Here's the things you should do to come and be ready to play test for everybody. You should make a mod.io account and hook it up to Steam, etc., etc. And this video will make all that really clear. Yeah, just a little hiccup. So we'll have that soon. Not yet, but you can watch the TTS importer tutorial video. It's about 6 minutes long on our YouTube channel right now to save you some time ASAP. Okay. And I guess just some encouragement I'll give people. I don't know if anybody who's watching live right now feels this way, but just the discouragement of, oh my gosh, it was hard to learn Tabletop Simulator. I can't do it. I can't do it again. I just can't do it again. I give up. I can understand that, and just also the way everything is in the world right now. There's so many stressful, hard, sad things to be burdened with, and it's easy to the truth is, I mean, Joachim is building his first TTP mod right now while I'm talking to you, and giving us our little updates. In actual fact, we're talking about a few hours. Especially that Screentop GG live stream that Zoe did with David, and you can watch on our YouTube channel. I think if you just spend the 2 hours and watch it, or you could watch it at higher speed. If you don't know about that life hack, you can go to settings and say play at 1.5 speed. If you're able to process information that fast, you could maybe shave off some time there and not spend the whole 2 hours watching it. But if you watch through that, you just in a focused way, not like multitasking and listening in the background, but follow along with what's happening with David's game. That's what you need to do to go, oh, like I think most people when they watch it will go, oh my gosh, okay, that's how it works. That's not so bad. I can do it. And if you are like halfway there, just by watching Zoe help David, you also have access to Zoe. Zoe wants to help you. We'll make time to help you if you fill out her form about that. And I want to share another link, actually. We have a whole page. I think probably the simplest thing for me to do is share the whole page on how to help building prototypes. And I'll be adding more like embedded videos onto this page. But right now we have, oh yeah, Zoe's here. So I have backup. This is the case. Zoe wants to help you if you're feeling overwhelmed with you want to be able to use Screentop GG, like everything I said about the pluses of it. You're excited. I can tell you that I don't think David would be mad at me for revealing that he said after building in both of them and having Zoe's help doing it in Screentop GG, all in Screentop GG. Feels like we'll build every game in Screentop GG. It will be possible. Very excited to use it with just that chance to become familiar with it. And here's the thing, like even if we bring Tabletop Simulator back someday, we're going to be better designers. We're going to be a better community if we know how to use all of them, because it's just, it makes a bigger tent, more people who have older computers, who think differently can be included. I think the fact that I hope that we never have one thing that 100% of people are using ever again, even though there are these frustrations of like needing to switch between different kinds of controls and stuff. I think that it makes it more welcoming for more people. And that is the goal for Protospiel Online, is for it to be a really safe space for new designers to come and learn how to be a designer, learn how to give and take feedback, learn how to, and specifically for us, I mean, I think all Protospiels really are that way. I know that a lot of people, I don't know if like the name being so like, what's such a weird word, it just sounds heady, or people get I realize that people get the impression that we're kind of snobs, but I think it's the opposite. If you go and you're like, I'm a noob, I don't understand anything. If you go to an in-person Protospiel, that's the place to go. That's the non-intimidating place to go. I would say I've been also to Unpub, and I think it's a great event, but it's more industry. It's more like there's a hierarchy at Unpub. Like, you get an assigned table, you kind of need to be like a front person for your game. You need to stand at the table. There's a lot of industry people there. There's a vendor hall, and there's networking, and there's business meetings and all that stuff. So it's more intimidating as your very first thing. I think it's a good thing to do in your journey as a designer, but as your very first thing, it was my very first thing that I tried too, and I think I don't know if I would have become a designer without how excited everybody was. And I'm not a tabletop designer, but I still am in the community of tabletop designers, so I don't think I would be in the community of tabletop designers if it weren't for the first Protospiel that I went to, bringing a game, putting it on the table, and just seeing the way everybody was like so excited to help me learn, like where I needed to look, what I needed to learn to be able to make decisions for my game. That's how it is at in-person Protospiels, and that's how it is at ours too. Except we have this extra layer of, we have to talk about these things like tabletop playground and stuff, and they're talking about things like paper cutters and all that sort of stuff. And that's the like major difference, I would say, between our two ways of doing playtesting. But I feel like I interrupted myself. I was going to share you this link. So this page on our website, and you can get to it in our menu from under the prototypes drop down from the main nav, has lots of resources, and the link to work with Zoe is under the ScreenTop GG section of this. So there's a form you fill out to give some advanced information, make it a little bit more efficient for both sides of you to be ready to have the conversation and actually get pretty far in an hour. But there's a lot of other things on this page too. There are some embedded videos on this page, and I'll be adding more. If I don't have all of them that I'm talking about right now, they'll be on this page eventually, so you can watch them on our website as well as on our YouTube channel. Okay, so let's see. We have a big old huge comment. Can I even see the whole thing? Okay, yes, I can. Okay, so for people who only want to attend Protospiel to playtest, I am sure there are lots of games you can play by just watching a stream and tell someone what you want to do. Of course, that won't work in games where you have secrets from other players, but... Oh yeah, it is cut off. Let me see. Oops, wait. I can't... Why? Okay, there. But I'm hovering over it, and it's like blacking it out, so I can't read it. But there are plenty of games where everyone sees everything at all times, and none of the designers would mind moving tiles and pieces around for you. Right. Yes, I can see it feeling pretty, like, making you feel like you're a burden as a playtester. I think that there's also, I notice we sell way more designer badges than playtester badges. I wish I could crack the code on why that is, because being a playtester, I mean, you should be like royalty as a playtester in Protospiel Online, because you're not asking for anything, you're just giving. And your opinions are so useful and helpful to the designers that you're about to just enter a big love fest if you come as a playtester, and it's the cheapest kind of badge. And even if you are a designer, but you just don't think you can get your game ready on these platforms in time, like, you can be with everybody. Just all you have to learn how to do is use the controls, not necessarily all the building. That's like an extra step of something to learn. But you'll just be in a big love fest. Everybody will just love you for being there to play their games and give feedback. You don't have to it doesn't have to be like embarrassing. I wonder if that's what it is, if like people who have a design they're working on but it's not ready for its next playtest, and they're feeling like disappointed in themselves that they couldn't make time to work on it between the last one and the new one. They don't want to come as a playtester because that's like admitting defeat, maybe. I don't think it needs to be like that. I think that often you can learn things about designs that you're thinking about making by playtesting for other people and hearing the feedback other people give other designers. So even as a designer, even if you don't really define yourself as I'm a playtester and you define yourself as I'm a designer, the playtester badge can be a really good asset for you as a designer. And let's see, what do you say here, Joachim? Your background music got a bit loud. Really? I didn't change it. It's very low, actually. I could turn it down just a little bit. I did that. And what do you say, Joachim? How much does it cost with Zoe? Is Zoe with us to answer that question for me? Because I know what it was the last time I looked, but it may change slowly. So I'll see if Zoe answers that question for you. Yep. It's currently free. No strings attached. Maybe you can just give Zoe an internet cookie or an internet hug or something in exchange. Or tell other people. I bet that should be your fee, Zoe, is tell somebody else to use ScreenTop.gg, right? Because I think that's the payment Zoe is looking for, is more fun people to play test her games with. Yes. Or tell people to watch our live streams that help, that help them with things, that kind of thing. Just become an advocate for ScreenTop.gg. And this is something, since I know you're here with me, like you can correct me, Zoe, if I'm not saying this right. But one thing that does give me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies about ScreenTop.gg is like, wow, this is way too good to be true. It's totally free. It's totally free. Like, okay, well, how is it ever going to be supported? And this doesn't make sense. Like, why is it totally free? And that's a trap. It's a trap. Eventually, I'm going to be neck deep in this thing and need to start paying some. Because it's browser-based, I would expect it to be not a one-time fee, but because it requires hosting and everything, I would expect it to be a subscription like Tabletopia. What Zoe said at the beginning of our stream is that their plan is to someday monetize it, but the way they intend to monetize it is sort of only if you're looking to make money with the platform, will they charge you. And exactly what that's going to look like, it hasn't been completely figured out. And I guess maybe that still makes me feel a little bit nervous, because if they don't know exactly how they're going to make it work, maybe that's not even a thing they're going to be able to do. I'm rooting for them, though. And they have a Discord that you can join and talk directly to the developer. So I know that their developer is listening to us too, and we can maybe make recommendations about what we would feel comfortable with as far as the designer community, in what way we would be okay paying. So Zoe says that's what the dev said. There's a sense of this is too good to be true. Although, to be honest, I'm hoping to financially support it someday. Yeah, and that's true too. If you make a really good product, there will be people who want to pay you as a thank you for what you're doing. So, yeah, and I mean, maybe they could even do something as simple as like a Patreon to help fund whatever they really need to do. I don't know. I'm not sure. Patreon usually is connected to content, but I suppose making code. One of the bots that we use for tabletop, or for blah, 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 there's so many brand names to keep straight. But at Protospiel Online, we have a system where our voice channels are we call them tables, and they're only open when people are in them. So we don't have a big old long list of text and voice channels that you have to pick through. They are created when you hit a button, and then they go away when everybody leaves. And that's done with a special bot that we pay for via Patreon. So that's a model that devs can use, I suppose. And yeah, and it does have this thing where anybody can make anything, and there's no process for verifying that you're the IP holder before you make something. So I've seen, no. Yeah, when I see things up there, especially after what just happened with Tabletop Simulator, and I feel like I was telling people like, oh, it's fine, it's not immoral to play this game on Tabletop Simulator. If the publisher didn't like it, they'd ask for it to be taken down, and it would be. And apparently that's not really true, at least not always. And it might be because it's the Steam Workshop, and it also involves Valve, the company that owns Steam, and there's maybe like a arduous process to remove things, and that's why they don't do it. But anyway, or they don't do it easily. But yeah, both Tabletop Playground and Screentop GG have this thing going on where there are games that have been created by not the creator of the game. Like I know, and certain of these people, I know them. I know who the person who created it is. I know how I could get in touch with them, maybe through Facebook or something. And I think to myself, I'm going to ask them if they're happy that this happened before I even open it. And that's just such a burden on the user. I don't like it. I wish that there was some kind of like verified. This is verified as the original creator badge, like on both of these platforms. I know that we have talked, like we've had a good talk behind the scenes, like on video call with the TTP dev. And I know it's something he hears, but he also can give us the feedback that like, it's not simple. We have to do something where we're not the middleman, basically, because as soon as we police one thing, we have to police everything, and we just won't have the resources. It gets out of control. But if they are open to giving us tools to police it ourselves and make it easy for us to do ourselves, and that would make me feel better. I think that feels like the good compromise. But what do you say, Zoe? Yeah, it's just the kind of the way it is. But I think it's something that we should be talking about. And this is part of the reason that I really like both TTP and Screentop, and to an extent also Tabletopia, even though I don't think their decision has been that we are their most important customer as the development community or the designer community. They care about us enough to talk to us and help us as much as they can, but they haven't designed their thing for us, where these other two have, and they are thinking about us and they want to hear from us. So I think it's good that we can have this conversation, all of us together. We can give our input. Both of them have Discords that they listen to us and want us to join and talk and give feedback. And there's a kind of lo-fi, roadmap for TTP, like the thing, kind of like the ideas system that the Game Crafter has, where they'll put things that people are requesting sort of as jobs on this public board you can look at and see what's coming down the pipe. I don't know if, I haven't looked into it. Zoe might know if Screentop GG has something similar. But I have seen the one for TTP. Billing page, okay. Yep. Oh, okay. And then also the question that I've heard some people say is, well, and let me go back to this no mental space thing and kind of close out that thought first. You might be surprised how like good it makes you feel to just break through it. Just go ahead and give it a couple hours and try and see if it's really that hard. Because I don't know, I personally can attest to what we're up to right now is trying to get Twitch affiliate, and having this like concrete goal to work on that is attainable, and like deciding for myself, it's attainable. I'm setting my sights on it. It's like a short-term thing. It's something I could do in 2 weeks. I'm going to talk to my friends about it. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to find the resources. I'm going to do it. It actually is really good for it's been really good for my mental health in a really like sad, crappy week with just everything that's going on in the world. It's been comforting actually to have something to work on, especially if I can work on it with a friend. And so that kind of brings me also to explaining about what this accountability buddy match that we're offering for Protospiel Online April is. It could potentially do, because like as I've been doing the Twitch thing, largely it's been a partnership with David. Like we've been pinging off each other, like, okay, let's do this, and making decisions together. Having somebody to talk to helps the decision happen faster. Or like when you hit a roadblock, like, I don't know how to do blank, and you can ask somebody else, do you know how to do blank? Or do you know where the resources for blank? And they can just tell you quickly. It's like, it really is, it's been a really helpful and uplifting experience. So yeah, we want that for you all too. And so this accountability buddy system is like a special opportunity that we have, and we may never do it again. It's very unlikely we'll ever do it again exactly this way. We'll probably, if I know that we're not going to do it again exactly this way, because there's some things about how it's working that are not smooth enough for me, but we're going to do it this way the first time. And I'm saying smooth enough for me as the one creating it. I think for you all, it's going to be quite smooth and good. But for me as the person moving all the toggles and stuff, I need it to be different. So there will be some things that'll be different about it. I can promise you that. And it never will be included with the badge again. It will be something you can buy extra. And so that will help us expand our community. So the people who can't come to the event next time we do it, if we do it again, people who can't come in August, that doesn't mean they can't match with a community accountability buddy and still help each other with a project or a deadline, even if they're not going to be somebody you can talk to when you actually come to Protospiel Online. In future, it's going to if we do it again, it will be transitioned to that. But this time, unfortunately, I know at least one of you has been watching. You're not planning to get a badge because you're too busy that weekend. You can get a badge and just do the accountability buddy part, like get the cheapest badge, get the playtester badge. And that also will get you access to our Discord and any conversations going on in there, which, you know, for $15 to be in our Discord forever. And if you don't come to the event, no offense, like no harm, no foul. Like that's fine if it turns out you can't come, but just get the badge to be part of the community match. I have no problem with you choosing to do that. And I think that your accountability buddy probably would be fine with that too, because the point is more like the conversation that's happening before the event. And all you're going to be committing to is 30 minutes talking to each other. You don't have to have regularly scheduled meetings or anything like that. You'll be matched based on the likelihood that you'll enjoy talking to each other based on topic. And it's a mix of playtesters and designers. Everybody is kind of in the same pool, and it's only based on your topic of interest or you can pick a couple of them. When you actually get the survey, this is what it'll be like. And all you're committing to is 30 minutes, a 30-minute call. And it will be, you don't have to create an account in anything. You just fill out a survey to say what times and topics, and you'll get matched with somebody that agrees with your time. You'll get the time set. You'll get sent an email with a link to join the call. When it's time to join the call, you'll have a 30-minute call. And so it's very light lift, and thanks, Joachim, just to get in the Discord is so worth it. Yeah, and you'd also get this buddy match as long as you buy before we start doing the match. So the deadline to buy is this Monday night, March 7th at midnight. And then the day after, we'll be sending out the survey. So if you've already bought a badge, you're going to just be getting the survey on March 8th. And that you'll have a week to fill it out. And then the calls will happen the week after that. Oh, let's see what Joachim says about that. I am in hundreds of servers, but only 2 are not buried in groups. My own server for Feud, that's Joachim's game, probably coming to crowdfunding quite soon. It's only Protospiel, and they're at the top of my list. Thank you. Yeah. Well, Protospiel is pretty high on my list too. So, is it at the top? Yes, I think it is. So, yeah. Oh, I'm telling on myself whether or not it's at the top, but I think it's at the top, and then 1 is right below it. But you know, I'm in there, and I'm here to help answer your questions about any of the stuff that, and I'm watching it very closely, any of the stuff that you're hitting hurdles on. If nothing else, I can point you to the resource that could help you. So I'm not good at, yeah, the chat is so distracting to me. Not good at keeping on task here with the chat going on. Bought Tabletop Playground in January when it was mentioned on sale, and just installed it today. I thought it would be a lot of work, but it's surprisingly easy. Yeah. I think the most frustrating and complicated thing about it is the need to use mod.io. So you've done the part where you're building, and that part's pretty intuitive. The part where you need to make a table, share it with people, it's quite different than Tabletop Simulator, and maybe in a good way, because like I was saying before about the IP issues, part of the reason they did it is because they know they're thinking about that issue, and it will make it possible for you to sell your mods someday. Not possible right now, but that's kind of on the roadmap. And also to potentially make these tools where you can self-police, like I didn't give permission for that. And like you could get a notification, somebody posted a game with your name, your game's name, and you can ask for a takedown, and they can just hit a button and say, yep, you're the verified, user for it. Anyway, but so it's good that they're using it, but it means we have to learn something that's kind of non-intuitive and kind of a bit of I find it to be the heaviest lift part of it. But that's why we're going to make a really detailed video that explains like every single step and all the things you should do in advance of Protospiel Online to be able to join other people's tables. So, and then also the question of like, why, like if I get Tabletop Playground, except for at Protospiel Online, nobody's going to have it. And I want to be able to play test regularly. I mean, I'll tell you this, we'll give a scholarship to a playtester. If you have a group of playtesters who playtest for you a lot, like your close friends, and they only have Tabletop Simulator, and you don't want to ask them to buy something and you don't feel like you can afford to buy it for them, we have codes with our scholarships. And if they apply for a scholarship, we're not going to ask questions if it's the truth that they don't have it. It's not something they have in their budget, not something they're willing to spend money on because they can't afford it. We'll give them a code. So you can also use Protospiel Online to set your favorite playtesters up with Tabletop Playground. I'm not gonna police, say no playtesters can have it, because yeah, I feel like it's pretty likely that a designer sent the playtester and we're helping designers by making playtesters able to use Tabletop Playground too. I think that's everything that I wanted to make sure you all heard. Yeah, the accountability buddy match is a little bit difficult to explain or describe what it's going to be like before it happens, and it's all an experiment. But we really encourage you to sign up on time for that so that you'll have plenty of time to talk to each other. I mean, it needs to be early like this, so you'll have time to help each other set a plan and do it. If you enjoy talking to each other, then we encourage you to keep in touch with each other. And whatever you talk about in your conversation, you can make it anything. You can make it what your goals are for the event, or just things that are on your mind that are hard right now about being in the designer community or in the playtesting community. Just know, yeah, you can, even a playtester badge gets you in, and that will mean that you might get matched with a playtester. But I'll tell you, if you're a designer and you get matched with a playtester, I mean, they'll playtest your games and they don't have a game that they're gonna, it's half the time needed for a playtest swap if they don't have their own game, right? So it's a boon to have more playtester friends. Like, why wouldn't you want that? And also for all of you that are like alumni and you already have friends at the, like, you're coming because you want to see the people that you know from past events. Why not have more friends? And you might get matched with somebody that you already know, but you'll learn something about them based on what they've said they want to do, what kind of conversation they've said they want to have in the match. So I'll give you just maybe a couple minutes if you have any other questions for me about anything, really, anything that you know is going on in Protospiel Online or whatever. Before I won't just like cut it off really fast, but I have finished telling you everything I wanted to make sure to talk about. Guess I can talk about what our next stream will be while I'm waiting, just to make sure there's no more questions. We'll be doing 2 live plays of Library Labyrinth this week. Very exciting. It just funded on Kickstarter. They came 3 times in 2021 to Protospiel Online, so they definitely was a group effort, or our group made a lot of effort to help them make the best game possible. So it's really exciting to get to see them funding on Kickstarter. So the designers are UK based. So our usual Thursday night time is a ridiculous time for them to come. So we're taking this opportunity where we're doing an affiliate push on Twitch to do an extra stream at a time that works well for them on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that's where we'll be getting the story from the designers and maybe like some strategy tips from them, and I'll play it with them on Monday. And then on Thursday, we'll play it again without them from people on the Protospiel Online community. And what's going on with that Twitch show, the Protospiel tested Twitch show, is the boundary is we're not going to be playing prototypes on that show. We're going to play things that are have made it to at least being up for funding on Kickstarter, like they're finished games that have been play tested at any Protospiel event. So some of them we might start going back, like when we run out, when we run out of things that, like right now, our community, it's what's on Kickstarter, or it's what's like just been delivered from Kickstarter and just going into retail. Like we have quite a few things that are like that after doing this for 2 years, which is really, really exciting and fun to see. We have plenty of things like that, and we'll keep to focusing on Protospiel Online options, but we have some things from years back that were play tested at Protospiel Online you might have heard of. They just have to be available on one of these supported platforms. We're not going to be playing on TTS. As long as we're not play testing on TTS at Protospiel Online, we're also not going to be playing Protospiel tested games on our stream that are on Tabletop Simulator. They'll have to get to be on Tabletop Playground, ScreenTop.gg, or Tabletopia. But, you know, Tabletopia is the one you kind of want to be on once you're published, so I'm hoping that mostly that won't even be an issue. Yeah, so it doesn't look like you have any more questions for me. It's been really, I'm glad you, this is the first time I've done one where I'm the only one on camera, and there's no other like voice I can hear to talk to, so thank you for coming and keeping me company and making sure I'm covering, like, asking me the follow-up questions, making sure I'm covering what's on your mind. It's been awesome hanging out with you, and look forward to doing, I don't think I'm going to do a lot of Q&A streams like this, but I look forward to having you with us on our other regularly scheduled streams, and I will keep you in the loop through Twitter and the Discord on what that other show that's going to be more of a conversation type show, what time it's going to be. We're going to try to place it at a time that makes more sense for all you European viewers, kind of more like this part of the day that I'm talking to you right now, maybe a little bit later in the day. Yeah, more like in what is my, like in a normal workday time, middle of the day time for me. So we'll do one more, just not sure of the name and the frequency yet. So thanks so much for watching. Our Twitter handle is @ProtospielO. And here, well, just look up Protospiel Online on YouTube if you want to follow us on YouTube. We will be putting out a lot of other stuff there. That's the best place for searchability and stuff. So we'll never have, like, anything of value that we make, anything that's interesting to watch, that's for public viewing, there's always going to be a copy of it on YouTube. So if you're following us on Twitch, it's a good idea to keep an eye on our YouTube too, since Twitch videos only stay up for 2 weeks. So that's why we make sure it gets saved for future reference on YouTube. All right, so we'll see you next time. Thank you all so much. Bye, Joachim. Thank you for asking questions and contributing and everything. Always good to see you in the chat. Bye, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. You already said that. I'm trying to, yeah. Bye, bye, bye.